Okay, welcome everybody to this webinar. We are from mymaastricht. My name is Thomas. I'm working for the university, and we are happy to provide you today with all the information you need before your arrival to the beautiful city of Maastricht. And Fran and Amanda will guide you through the presentation. And Frederik is also with us from the International Student Help Desk, and we will together try to answer your questions that you please ask via the Q&A function. Enjoy. And
thanks, Thomas. So just quick introduction. I'm Fran. I'm with mymaastricht. I've been working for mymaastricht for a little over a year now. I'm the content coordinator, so I do much of the research and the content writing on the website. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'm originally from Argentina. I'm doing my bachelor's in European law. So this is my third year, my final year. So I've been living in Maastricht for 2 years on and off because of COVID. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy this webinar. And
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda. I'm the promotions coordinator for mymaastricht. I've been working here for almost, I think, 3 years. I'm also a student. I did my bachelor's here, and I really liked Maastricht so much that I stayed, and I'm currently doing my master's here. I'm half Irish, half Zimbabwean, so pretty much also very international. Came here not knowing anything. So yeah, our job today is to hopefully get you up to speed on life in Maastricht and to kind of give you, a little heads up and some tips on, how to get settled here. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Cool. So just a little bit about this webinar. We're looking at around 30 to 45 minutes, depending on your questions, and just, it varies a little bit, but it won't be above 45 minutes. It will be recorded and available on our platform later, so specifically on our YouTube, which you can find at the bottom bar there in the slide. So if you need to go back through any of the information, then you can do so. Please use the Q&A function to ask us any questions that you have. It's better than the chat. And then the questions will be picked up either by Thomas or Frederica in writing, or will be forwarded to us if it's maybe a more pertinent question for us to answer, or it requires maybe like a verbal answer. We also ask that you ask us only general questions about life in Maastricht, nothing too specific related to university, your program, your faculty. That should really be directed at the faculty at the university itself. And no COVID information either. We usually try to stay away from this since the regulations and the information changes so frequently that we're really not the authoritative source of this kind of information. So there's plenty of info online, the government, everything like this. So yeah, just mostly questions about living here, coming here, studying here, the life, the processes, let's say.
Yeah, and these are the processes that we will talk about. So we'll start with about the city itself, Maastricht, why we at least think it's such a great student city to live in. Then we'll also talk you through some of the adulting kind of things that you need to get to know, such as your housing, sort of give you hints on like health insurance, but not go too much in depth, but just sort of the things that you probably wouldn't really think about because you may or may not have moved before, but you're master's students. So you're probably watching this from a foreign country as well, but it's always different depending on the country, city you move to. So we're kind of going to help you out a bit with that. And we'll also give you some tips about what it's like to visit Maastricht. This is obviously an online open day, but maybe one day you guys want to visit. So we can definitely give you heads up on where to go, where the students are hanging out. So yeah, without further ado, we'll introduce kind of who we are.
So we've been talking about all these things we're going to talk about, but first of all, why are we sort of the people to talk about this kind of stuff? So mymaastricht.nl is this one-stop information platform, and we literally exist to help new students settle and find their feet in the city. And so we provide information on anything from like you see on the slide, finding the best drinks in town, or even applying for subsidies or health insurance and finding housing, and all these topics that maybe new students coming to the Netherlands have no idea about. And so as opposed to having to spend hours researching and Googling and translating Dutch into English, that's why we're here. So the website, the platform is created by students for students. So all of it is from this student perspective. And we're also supported and funded by Maastricht University, Zoid University, as well as the municipality of Maastricht. So the information is legit. And so yes, we will try and do our best to give you an overview of what we can really do for you in this webinar, and hopefully answer many questions.
And if you haven't already checked out our website, this is kind of the front page. This is what it looks like. You can see here, as I was saying, like we do cover things about how to get settled. So at the top there, that icon is kind of like your finances, your health at the bottom, housing, transport. But we also help you with, once you're here, how to get settled. And then how to explore the city. So on the red icon there, which is the city map, really, if you want to like note it down, this is not to toot our own horn, but I think it's very helpful. That's our city map, and it was really curated for students, by students. So it has things from, simple things such as groceries, doctor's office, blah, blah. But it also has, the best cafes that students go to, restaurants, all that stuff, scenic spots as well. So it kind of helps you find your place, get to know your neighborhood. So I really recommend like checking it out. And yeah, that's kind of like our website. Anything we talk about today is literally just the tip of the iceberg of the information you're going to find on this little lovely compass. Like there's so much information that's there, and yeah, we'll give you a condensed version basically, but it's in depth in there.
Cool. So into the actual things we're going to talk about today. So first, we're going to give you some reasons why maybe you should come to Maastricht, why we think you should come to Maastricht. And I think the first reason is the diverse and international aspect of the university, but also the city in general. So the city itself has 120,000 inhabitants, and 20,000 of these are students. So it generally is a very student-friendly student environment. You really do feel it in the atmosphere when you walk around, and the campus is spread out throughout the city. So you have the different faculty buildings dotted about the center, the city center. And so, yes, there's constantly students walking around, getting to class, getting to the library, and it is just a lovely environment in general. And even within that, you have, so in just Maastricht University, 55% of the students, which are international, and 40% of the staff, which are international. And, I think this is a statistic that is constantly pushed by the university. And so it can be lost a little bit on people, but genuinely, when you walk down the street, you can really see this in practice. I mean, you can see from myself and Amanda, we are definitely very international. I grew up in the UAE, so in a very, very international background as well. I went to an international school. And when I came here, I felt like it lived up to, that was like a main concern of mine. And this city, this university lived up to those expectations, and has not disappointed in the 3 years, well, the almost 3 years that I've been here. So definitely it makes it easier also to settle in here because everyone's new, everyone comes from a different country, or most people do at least. And so that also makes it a very welcoming environment that is very prepared to welcome new people and people that are not from the Netherlands. And then obviously geographically, you are quite literally in the center of Europe, which has its perks, obviously. I mean, traveling within the Netherlands itself is obviously very easy. The public transport is great here. But also if you want to travel around Europe a little bit, explore, Germany and Belgium are basically around the corner. You can literally walk to Belgium from Maastricht. So we have wonderful airport connections and trains and things like this. So that is definitely something to take into account if being an international setting is for you.
Another thing to take into account would be that it's so easy to just go about the city by bike. We are in the Netherlands, so obviously super bike friendly. The roads are literally, designed for you as a cyclist, designated bike lanes. It's very safe. I think like as well, the size of Maastricht, it's not this like super big city. It's not a village as well. I just had a friend visit me for like the last 3 days, and this entire time he never visited because he said, I thought you lived in a village. Second, the like train station, he was like, oh, actually, this is like an actual city. And I was like, Yeah, so it isn't a village, but it's not like a big city, so you can generally get around within like 10 to 15 minutes max. I usually say if it's like over 15 minutes, you're taking me to Belgium. Like, I'm not going there. Like, it's no way. But yeah, so as a person that also is not a fan of cycling, I do definitely like appreciate that has its perks, especially whenever I'm late, whenever I want to get home quickly, all this sort of thing. So we also on our page, you know, kind of give you the lowdown on how to get a bike, bike and safety rules, all that stuff. So you should definitely check it out before you move here. For days that, you know, you don't want to cycle, if you live outside of Maastricht or you want to just go around the Netherlands, then we recommend you get an OV chip card. This can be used on all public transport in the Netherlands, so buses, trains, sometimes for even like parking your bike or for renting a bike, you can use it. And what it is basically like a little card, and you can load money onto it and then you just pay for transport. And usually it works out cheaper than paying with your debit card or with cash. So that's always something to look at. And you can find information on that on our website as well under transport.
Do you have any questions so far, or are we good to move on?
Oh, just something on housing and on jobs, but we will get to that and then I will pick them up.
Okay, great. All right, so apart from these lovely characteristics of the city itself, something about the actual things to do, the activities that you can do. So Maastricht is, I would say it's got definitely more of a bar and restaurant atmosphere. If you're looking for the huge party, Netherlands, Amsterdam style, this is not going to be the place for you. We'll be honest about this, but it definitely has a lovely sort of, yeah, bar and restaurant scene. There's so many places to discover, so many places to check out for eating and drinking and dining and wining and all these things. Maastricht also has a pretty diverse music and cultural scene, I would say. I'm still discovering new things, even after being here for 2 years, and Amanda after being here for what, 4 years now. And yeah, so there is something for everyone when it comes to finding your group of people, finding like-minded people or new hobbies or whatever. We do have a dedicated section for this on the website that we hope will make your life easier when it comes to settling in terms of social life, and that's our sports and community pages. And what they do is basically list every single sports and sort of community associations that you can find in the city, be they private or university related or student led or student initiatives, anything from environmental groups to I don't know, LGBTQ groups to politics, humanitarian groups, anything that you can think of is on there. So there's definitely a lot to do, and I don't think that people really realize. A lot of people, I think, immediately come to Maastricht, see that it's quite a, like Amanda said, it's not a village, but it's also not a massive city. It's kind of in this sweet spot in the middle, and a lot of people immediately get sort of blocked by that and think that automatically it will at some point become boring. This, at least in my experience, has been far from true. I think most people that I know are just surprised by how much they continue to be able to discover in such a small city. So definitely don't be scared that you will get bored and that you won't have things to do.
For sure. Just to give you like an outline of like the city and kind of position wise in terms of housing, neighborhoods, and, you know, your faculties for the university. So usually, I don't know if Fran can be my pointer today, but I'll start start with the left side. But usually if you're, you know, studying like law, I mean, I'll start by saying like where the river is usually like the center, basically the inner city, and anything straying from that is always not too far. It may look like it's miles away, but really like from Wick to Stadten Quartier, I don't know how I say that, but I hope it sounds okay. But yeah, I think that is like, for me, in less than 10 minutes, I've cycled there. And that's like FASOS, which is Faculty of Arts and Culture.
Social sciences.
Social sciences. I never say it right. Not my faculty, so forgive me. But yeah, so if you're at that faculty, that's usually the neighborhoods that you're looking at for law students, SBE, School of Business and Economics. You're all, yeah, thank you, friend. You're all in that neighborhood on this side of the river. And then if you're now thinking about, health, so faculty, I always say this, Faculty of Health and Sciences,
medical and life, medical life.
As you can tell, that is also not my faculty. But yeah, the health sciences and medicine, that's all in Randweg, as Fran is pointing out there. Faculty of Science and Engineering, now you can tell that is my faculty, is also in that neighborhood. So a lot of people usually stay around Weg, Schaneweg, and that sort of thing. And the reason why we always say, like, look at the map when you're choosing housing is because you kind of want to locate yourself kind of close to your faculty. It's just easier. You can go home for lunch if you want, go take a nap in between. So it's kind of handy. But you can also see this on our map as well. You can see what things are around your house anyways, in terms of groceries, banks, doctors, and all that sort of thing. And then just on the next slide.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Are just some little tips before we get into the pure content of adulting. These are just some fun tips on what to do if you do visit Maastricht beforehand, or maybe you can still take it down for when you move over here. These are some of my places that I really love, Fran as well. So St. Peter, I used to live up this hill, not this very spot, but close to there anyways. It's a really beautiful vantage point to view the city. And the other place I like as well is Marina Tipasan, which you can see in the photo there. Really nice. There's 2 cinemas. There's one that's very, if you're into 3D, 4D, I don't know how many Ds we have these days. But and then there's also another cinema that's very artsy, and they show old films. So you kind of have everything there in this little corner, and then you can take a nice little walk. So super nice. But obviously you can find a lot more recommendations on our map, or you can also just message us, say, hey, I'm coming to Maastricht, what do you recommend? Blah, blah. We'd be happy to help you.
Definitely. Okay, so on to the hot topic of housing. So we're gonna go over basically I think a good starting point for someone thinking of moving here. But this is not all the information that you need and not all the information that you should stick with. So there's a lot more. Unfortunately for you, we're gonna have to plug ourselves again. A lot of it is on the website. So we start from on the website. It's sort of designed so that you can read through some basics that you should know in terms of the system, how it works in the Netherlands, what are things you should look out for, red signs when signing a contract, just things that will keep you hopefully out of trouble. And we'll go into why you might get in trouble. And so definitely, if you are coming here and you are looking for housing, consider checking that out, because really do write these things. I have spent a lot of time researching these things with students in mind and with the main pitfalls that students encounter when they come to the Netherlands and when they look for housing. And I really genuinely hope that it will help at least someone not get into a shitty situation when it comes to their housing. So why am I cautioning you so much? Well, because the Netherlands can be a little bit crazy when it gets to housing, and Maastricht in particular, such a popular student city, such an international city where students are constantly coming in and out, and there's so much turnover, but maybe not enough. And it's a mess sometimes, especially when it's the beginning of a new academic year. So you have to really be responsible and start looking. Well, like it says in the slide, if you're starting school in February, we recommend you start looking around November. So now, at least to become familiar with the market, see, like Amanda was talking about, the different neighborhoods where you might like to live. And so if you want the most amount of options possible when it comes to your housing and the cheapest ones, definitely start looking early. If you plan to start school in September, then we usually recommend you start around April. So really, really early. But September is also sort of the craziest time to find housing, because this is usually when most students will be starting. And so it can get really, really crazy. So that is why we definitely recommend also become familiar with what the do's and don'ts of finding housing in the Netherlands. So some options to actually find housing. The first that we always talk about is Maastricht Housing. So this is the official Maastricht University and Zoid University housing agency. So you can see from the slide, they do charge a €35 one-time fee, which a lot of other agencies might not do, but we will go into why you might want to consider doing so. First reason is that Maastricht Housing is the only way that you can access the guest house, and this is the university dorms. So think of your quintessential student dorm life. This is it. So they have various different options in terms of whether you want to share a room with a roommate, whether you just want to share your kitchen and bathrooms, how many people you want to share those things with. So I think where I stayed my first year, it was a floor shared with like 30 people. So just basically kitchen, bathroom shared with all these people. And that is probably the most communal option that you can go for. I think from there, it just gets slightly less social and less social and social. Social meaning the amount of people you share with. So there's a lot of different options, but the only way that you can get to these dorms is through Maastricht Housing. So that is one reason why you might want to consider the €35 fee. The second one is that they also allow you to access the social housing corporations. And you can see that in the next box, Maasvallei, Servatus, and Woonpunt will go into why you might want to consider these as options. But Maastricht Housing is also one of the only ways that you can access them in Maastricht. I believe they're the only way. You can't go directly to them. You have to do it through Maastricht Housing. And then you can also find offerings by private landlords. So just individuals that chose Maastricht Housing as their agency to rent out their property. And what we always tell students is that Maastricht, obviously there is no guarantee. You can always end up with a shitty landlord, even if you're renting through Maastricht Housing. That is unfortunately always a risk, but you can rest assured that the properties are going to be better vetted and that there's going to be a little more oversight when it comes to the agency, because obviously it's a university, they have students' interests at heart, most importantly and first and foremost. And so maybe it might be a safer option for you. Last thing that we always like to mention with Maastricht Housing that people should know is that once you pay the fee, you automatically get put into like this priority list. So the earlier you sign up, the higher you will be able to move up this list. And that means that you will be first in line. So a lot of properties, a lot of the nicer and cheaper properties are sometimes listed on this kind of list-based system. And so if you want to go for them, if you want to get a viewing, the longer you're subscribed to Maastricht Housing, the better it is. So it's kind of like a first come, first serve for whoever subscribed first to Maastricht Housing. I hope I'm making myself clear. If you have any questions about that, please do ask. But if you already know that you're coming to Maastricht, and if you would like to see what Maastricht Housing has to offer, then we recommend that you just pay the fee, and then that might benefit you. Maybe by your second year, you'll already be at the top of lists for some of the best studios in the city and the cheapest ones as well. So consider that. And so related to this, you have the social corporations, and these are, you can see in the box, Maasvallei, Servatus, and Woonpunt. And what they are is basically collections of properties in the city, buildings full of student studios or rooms that are subsidized by the government. They are these organizations that just offer affordable housing, keeping in mind, student budgets and the fact that there is a housing crisis in the Netherlands. And so they have better practices, and they're not exclusively, their main aim is not to turn a profit. So they usually have a better reputation in terms of how they treat their tenants, maybe. I think not that others don't have good reputations, it's just that it's a safer option, I would say. They also have, like we said, more affordable prices, and you will end up living in a building full of other students as opposed to random people that might have completely different lifestyles. So housing corporations are definitely a good option. Again, only through Maastricht Housing. Next, and this is where we usually try to caution people most, you have the sort of private sector, which is definitely less regulated in law as well. So you can read more about that on the website in terms of how the social and the private sector might be more or less regulated, and that might be something good to keep in mind. Nothing wrong with the private sector at all. I personally am renting from the private sector right now, have had no issues. it's just something to keep in mind, that there is a distinction and it does make a difference. So how to find private properties, then you have things like Facebook groups. There's many of them. We list them on the website, but also it's not difficult to find if you just go Facebook, Maastricht housing, like housing in Maastricht or rooms in Maastricht, or I don't know, they're not difficult to find. I'm not on Facebook, so I wouldn't know too well, but so Facebook is one. Perarius, this is a website. It's very intuitive. They show you a map. You can see all the properties listed in the city. You click on them, they take you to the website of the real estate agency, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Camernets, similar concept. There's a couple of others as well. You can find them on the website, and sometimes they will show the same properties, but sometimes they'll show different ones. So if you really are looking, then you can check out both. What we do say when it comes to these private agencies and housing found through things like Perarius, Facebook, and Camernet is to be really careful. There is a little bit of a bad reputation among agencies, maybe to take advantage, especially of international students that don't know how things work, that don't speak the language, that don't know what's legal and what isn't, that don't know their rights. And so just people that really, obviously, you know, your private rental agency, you want to turn a profit. And so their main aim will be to get the most money from you possible. And so there have been people that end up with really just not fun circumstances with their housing, especially if you're moving to a new city, you have a lot of things to do for uni. You don't want to have to be dealing with a bad landlord or just fees that you shouldn't be paying, things like this. So we just caution you, be careful from the beginning, do a little bit of reading beforehand, know what to look out for. Again, the website is genuinely, and this is not just because I work there, it is a good source of information. So make sure to check that out, but just keep it in mind. But also, not to scare you, it's totally fine. You don't necessarily have to have a bad experience if you rent from the private sector. Finally, and I know I'm talking a lot, I'm almost done. Some other options, you have Zior. This is a private student housing sort of thing. It's a huge complex. They have actually quite a few in the city, maybe 2 or 3. Just big buildings full of student rooms and studios, and a lot of students do opt for them. Very nice places, but again, it's private, maybe less regulated, so be careful. Then you have the student hotel. This is good for short stay options as well. But it's basically what the name implies. It's kind of like very fancy student housing, almost hotel-like for students. But they do give like a nice package. You get a bike, you get a lot of social activities that they organize for you. And I think the actual facilities, the rooms are really nice themselves, but it definitely is a little pricier. But you can check that out if that's what you're into. And then if you need a short-term solution, if you arrive here, you don't have housing yet, whatever reason, the Stay OK is our very own little hostel / hotel. So you can go for that. And then
we get to some questions, I would say.
wait. One more thing. The Her Team Zoid-Limburg, but we can, if you need help, go to the Her Team Zoid-Limburg. We can also talk about this later, but I will take the questions now. I know I spoke a lot.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's super useful. Exactly. We got some questions in, and thank you already for that. Somebody asked that they would like to start looking for housing right now, but since they had not yet received their admission confirmation, would you suggest to still start looking anyway?
I think it can't hurt. I don't think you should sign anything, obviously, but I definitely think you should become familiar with how it works. Definitely look up things, see if there is any place you would like to live in. I'm sure you will get accepted. But I would say, Amanda, I don't know what you think, or Thomas, but I would say it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe like while you're looking, you could find something that has like a contract that you could not even get into yet, but could be put on hold. You never know. So it couldn't hurt to start looking, and it will only benefit you.
Yeah. Really? Someone else asking, I want to move in with my boyfriend to Maastricht and live together with him in an apartment. What option is the best for me?
Probably, I'd say you can just find like studio apartments or apartments, even through like the social housing corporations, through Maastricht Housing or private landlords. Maastricht Housing, sometimes I think majority of the rooms that aren't under the social housing corporations are usually with housemates. But I know Woonpunt, for example, has apartments. The private landlords, be careful, but they also have apartments. So I would say that.
Yeah.
And also to add, the private landlords, it's not necessarily a problem. It's just like that there have been situations with bad experience, but it's definitely not exclusively bad. You just have to know your wits a little bit and know what your rights are and read up on our website about this, and then you can definitely find great housing also there.
Yeah, for sure. No, don't be too scared. It's just know that that you should be careful, but nothing beyond that. There's one about rent. We will get to that in a little bit in the next slide, actually.
So yeah, I would say we move to the next slide, and the other questions we'll pick up because we will get to a couple of the topics also in a bit.
Okay, so my screen lagged for a second there, sorry. The hot topic, which is money, finances, how do I pay for everything? So on average for rent, most students pay $450, and this is usually, depending on what neighborhood, how fancy your room is, but it's usually inclusive of like your other bills, such as like your utilities of gas, electricity, water, Wi-Fi, that sort of thing. You can find something, as Fran was saying, if you do start looking early, you can find something for $350. It may be slightly further away from the inner city or the city center, but it's still doable, you never know. And then when you're looking at 700, 800, this is like a very nice studio, the student hotel kind of prices. That's what you're going into the range. So if you can afford it, it's also available for you. But on average, this is what students pay. And then expense-wise, I would say like around $350 for your groceries, your parties, you know, for your academic activities, that sort of thing. I would always say, like, especially if there's any parents watching this, like whatever students may, you know, spend in the first couple months, especially the first month, it's not the true budget that you're going to be living with. Like, don't be shocked if you've spent like 600 euros in your first month and think, oh my gosh, I'm not going to survive. I'm going to have to eat, I don't know, noodles back to my bachelor days. I don't know. It'll be fine. It's just getting settled, you know, maybe you want to buy furniture. Maybe you have a lot of textbooks, but so those things kind of might affect the beginning, but there are also ways to avoid certain things such as textbooks. There are sites, didn't say anything, but like with furniture, for example, and just money saving tips, we have that on our website as well. Like you can buy secondhand furniture, there's Facebook groups, all these sort of things that can kind of help you with budgeting. So check it out on our website. The hot question, do I need Dutch to get like a student job here? I'll start with student job specific, but I already saw some people talking about job perspectives after, but I'll start with student job specific. In general, anyways, the Netherlands is pretty, well, they can speak English pretty well. Most of the time, if they hear your English, they actually want to practice their English with you. So you have no chances of learning Dutch half the time because they want to practice their English. But throughout the university, it's all communicated in English. Most student jobs, they're used to, as we said, it's an international city. They're used to students coming along. So you can get by pretty well. There's a lot of student jobs because, again, it's a very student town and they're used to it. Most people depend on the students' labor, sort of the thing. So you can find a job, and we do have on our website a section where you can read up where to kind of start looking for jobs. Again, if you're then thinking about perspectives after, I think Frederica and Thomas already said, like, it's best to contact the program coordinator. But yeah, you can check our page as well for financial subsidies. This one will mainly have a lot of things to do with the Netherlands subsidies as opposed to the scholarships that offers. You can check that on the website. We also give you the contacts later on. But for financial subsidies that the Dutch government provides, you can also look at our website. And this goes from, you know, student financing to tuition loans to health insurance and house finance subsidies. So you can check that out on our website.
Nice. I think we have a couple of questions on this slide. So maybe we can start with if the monthly expenses include water, electricity, and so on, and how much would this be?
This, as far as I've seen, ranges. Thomas, maybe you might know better, but for me, example, on average, like I pay, you know, and it also ranges with the house, I believe. But for example, I pay 85, which I think is quite a lot, but
yeah, it really depends what we're talking about. So certain contracts come actually where they include the price of service costs, although they need to indicate these information to you in the contract already, that it's split so that you have control over it. In others, you only pay a cold rent, and you have to arrange or pay, or definitely pay for all the other costs on the side. And then, of course, depends on the size of your apartment, with how many people you live, and also, of course, the quality of the housing, how much heating you need, and how much water you use, and so on. I think what Amanda said is it's a good estimate, and it also depends. Do we include internet? Do we include all the taxes? Where a letter will come mostly around February that needs to be paid, but also can be requested back from the government if you don't have enough money. This is one of the financial subsidy options that Amanda already mentioned. So yeah, I think 85 euros is on average a good estimate.
And with things such as like the gas, sometimes they also calibrate towards the end of the year or beginning of the year and say, actually, you paid way too much. Here's a refund, or maybe you used way too much, you need to pay extra, but it's never like too much extra, and it depends on the housing.
Yeah, and are these expenses for private owned homes? It's for general student housing, so it doesn't really matter where it is. Some of in the guest houses might be a little bit cheaper, where you don't have as much space for yourself, and others, like student hotel, for example, is very expensive, but also very fancy and includes a lot of things. Then we had 2 questions on jobs, and that is, how much would a student job pay on average?
This ranges with your, so in the Netherlands, it also has, like, because of your age, they pay you by age. So this ranges, if you're 18, you're getting much less than someone that's 21 and above. So you can find those brackets on the internet. I won't go into
on our website as well.
Yeah, on the website. So that was, the internet is our website basically for me. I don't know anywhere else.
But this is for minimum wage only, not for a private, like sort of
Exactly.
So if you're getting minimum wage, it depends on your age. It rhymes.
That was my next point. That it then.
Oh, sorry.
No, all good. But basically, that's it. That it then depends. You might also have a great boss, even if it's a student job. That's like, I'm actually going to pay you, you know, quite a good amount of money. So
I believe for above 21s at the moment, it's something like 11. No, it's close to 11. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's what you would be getting if you're getting minimum wage and you're over 21 years old. And then you have certain subsidies that you can also apply for when it comes to this. So definitely read up on that, because you can save a lot of money in terms of getting tax back and deductions and things like this.
And we get the question about the job prospects for law student in general for someone not from the EU. I think it's very difficult to answer, but the region here, it's called the EU region, has a lot of job opportunities that a lot of people are not familiar with. Like within an hour, you're even in Cologne, Aachen, Hasselt, Liège. So there are definitely a lot of job opportunities also in Maastricht. And the university also provides a lot of information on that, for example, from your career services. But also, as it was suggested earlier, you can definitely contact your course coordinators or program coordinators to ask for that in specific. There sometimes are conferences on the topic organized specific on like, for example, law-related jobs, something you will figure out with time. Okay, the last question we will answer, I think, in the end.
Nice. Move on.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we've done our job correctly and we have in fact convinced you to come to Maastricht, then there's some things that you should think about before coming here. The first big one is health insurance, whether you are currently, whether the insurance you currently have covers you here, or whether you will have to take one out specifically to come to the Netherlands, whether you want that to be a Dutch one, a Dutch private one, a Dutch public one. All of it depends on what you're planning to do when you come here. So definitely read up about this, depending on your personal needs, depending on where you're from. Unfortunately, we can't give you such specific information because it just depends on your particular situation. We do have some information on the website, especially when it comes to getting a job. Then you need to get Dutch public health insurance, and then you have to apply for the subsidy if you want to get the money back, for example. All of that is on the website. So if you will get a job here, read up on that because you will need to take out insurance. Aside from that, check that you meet the requirements, that your current insurance does meet the requirements, or that you find one that does. The second thing that you should know about if you come here, once you get your rental contract, your housing sorted out, then you need to register with the municipality. This again is all sort of explained on the website. You can also obviously email us or ask us a question and we will explain how this works, but it's also very intuitive. It's important because obviously you need to let the municipality know that you live here. They need to know this to send you letters and to have a register of who lives in the city and who doesn't, obviously. But it's also important to apply for the DigiD. And this is it's linked to your social security number in the Netherlands, which you will receive when you apply, when you register with the municipality. And basically it links this to this digital ID, hence the name DigiD, that you can use to access all the government platforms, to do things like even apply for subsidies and get health insurance in the Netherlands. So really, really important tool that we highly recommend that you get. And you need to register with the municipality for that. Last thing that we really recommend is to get to know your neighborhood. And we've been talking about the city map. It really is an invaluable tool, I believe. Like it's genuinely, like, we sent out surveys to get students to recommend their top spots, and all of them are on this map. So it really is a good insight into what students do in the city. And so we definitely recommend that you check that out and check the neighborhood out if you know where you're going to live, or you know where you're going to study, the faculty, where it is. It's a good idea to at least become a little bit familiar virtually with the city before coming. And I think that will make your experience so much more valuable when you do come here. And then there are two things that we also ask students to keep in mind, which are a little bit particular in the Netherlands. The first is the garbage system. So this can seem a little bit complicated if you come from certain countries that maybe don't recycle at all or recycle less, because they do like recycling here. So we also try to give a lot of information on this, on how it works. A lot of words are in Dutch and they're long and they're complicated. And so we try to break it down and make it easy for you, because you risk getting fined for not doing it properly. So we want to save you the trouble and the money. And so definitely maybe read up on that. And then, as Amanda spoke about, cycling and road safety, just get familiar a little bit with the road, the rules of the road, and the bike rules, and how to store your bike properly so it doesn't get stolen. Bike theft is pretty common here. Getting bike lights, not texting when you're on your bike, things like this, that will also save you from having to buy a second bike if you get stolen, which hopefully it won't, or save you from getting a fine if you are not following the rules.
So these are some of the things that, we may not be able to help you with. And so we'll direct you to the people that can. So for visas, this is the visa office and the email. For scholarships, you can check them out already on the Maastricht University. I always want to say mymaastricht, like I'm just, in love with the company. You can check out scholarships on the website, but you can also email if you have specific questions. And then the Student Services Center is your go-to for general questions in terms of admissions, finances within your within the actual university. So like the tuition, questions about your program, that is their field. Please contact them. If you contact us, I'll probably just say, yeah, you deserve to be in the university, you've been admitted, but it's not viable. So they're the best people to talk to. And otherwise, Frederike as well, I think that's on the next slide. I'm doing we'll get into that as well for the other places that you can contact. But yeah.
All right, so quickly before just all this information and more is on the website. Definitely check it out. As Amanda said, this is the tip of the iceberg. It's a very condensed version of all that we can teach you about coming to Maastricht and all the mistakes that we have made so that you don't have to. So yeah, definitely check it out.
And follow us.
And follow us on social media. You can see all of them at the bottom. Amanda is very present in the social media, so you can always answer your questions. And now we'll give you our contact information also to contact us if you do have questions. That's what Amanda was talking about before.
So yeah, these are our contact details. You can obviously email us, but we do have a WhatsApp, and you can send us a message if you need be. You can always also just message us on social media, whatever channel you follow us, DM us on Instagram, Messenger, on Facebook. For special cases that are very stuff that's not too general and specific to you, this is where Frederike comes into play. So she's from the International Student Help Desk, as Thomas said earlier, and that's their email address over there. And basically they kind of help walk you through. So they're actually also like a physical body that you can visit. They have a spot at the Student Service Center. So let's say you need help filling out this Dutch form that you don't understand, like health insurance, for example, you can go over there, make an appointment, and they can help you talk it through with you. Whereas I would probably never be seen anywhere besides the library, and I'm usually studying, so I won't be able to help you. So they're pretty handy in that. As Fran mentioned earlier with housing, just a bit was the Her Team Zuid Limburg. This is their info. But you can also check out their website. It's also linked on our website, and basically they really help you out with your housing issues, any contract things. They'll look it over. Sometimes they even check the contract just to make sure like everything's good. So check them out as well. Keep them in mind when it comes to housing. So yeah, thank you.
For the last questions, I think.
Yeah.
No? So quickly pick up the job one first. If it comes to student jobs, there's a broad range. There are a lot of basic jobs just in like cafes and restaurants, on helping a kitchen or serving food. But if it comes for specific jobs, there also exists a lot. For example, at university, there is a service called the Vacancy Board, which we link to on our website under jobs, where you should definitely check for jobs that might interest you in categories. You could also talk to your coordinators and ask if they have positions available if you want to do something more specific. There's just a broad range. Keep your eyes and ears open, and then I think you will find something. And the question that was still open is if someone was wondering if there are any groups for international students to join and make friends. What can you recommend?
There's a lot.
So the first I think that most people would find is ISAP, and they're super good at like getting you like a buddy, and basically they kind of help you settle in. The whole group is international, of course. There's Kaleido. You can also, so at the beginning of like the intro weeks, they have something called Incom, which is kind of like introduction week. I think it's like 2 weeks before you actually start. And all these like communities, you can get to know Kaleido, for example, ISAP, for example, and there's a lot more on our website. I don't know if you want to name one already, Fran, but there.
The ISAP is the International Student Ambassador Program, so that's the university service where they really link you to a buddy and show you around. They invite people, and we have a community section where we have, I think, Fran, do you know how many? I think like above 100, something like this. Pretty much all student communities that they're out there. They can be just focused on socializing. They can be focused on topics, sustainability, human rights, and we have them all put in a handy overview. So just reach out to them, and if you would want to directly meet people, then I think ISAP or one of these communities like Kaleido that Amanda already mentioned are a good place to go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also international associations like ISN. I don't know if it's ESN now or if it's the other way around. ISEC, AIESEC, things like this. There's tons of them. So there's definitely, and many of them are internationally oriented. So you will not struggle at all to find one. In fact, I think you'll be spoiled for choice. It'll be difficult to choose one. So yeah.
Any other questions? No.
I don't think so. For the rest, thanks a lot already for joining and all your questions.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
always
guys.
feel free to like contact us on any of these channels if you ever have questions, or if you're coming here and you want recommendations of places to see.
Thanks to you
All right.
guys. Enjoy
everyone.
your the Master Open Day, and maybe see you around the Maastricht soon.
Bye.